All right, hello Canada and baseball fans in the States, in Jamaica, in Prince Edward Island, wherever you're listening. Hello, thanks for listening. We're gonna crack a few beers here, and by a few I mean only one because that was the only one in our radio station fridge. It's Clayton Croker to my left. We have the man, the myth, the Justin Anderson, and joining us via Skype, we also have the Maritimes Mistress Maker. We got Patrick Marsh. I know that we use the same nickname for Patrick every single time.
But we have to.
We have to because it's so good. This is episode 7 of Bat Flips and Maple Dips. It's a big one because we are finally at the break. We're going to be talking about the Home Run Derby. We're going to be talking about what the Jays should do at the deadline. We're going to be ripping into Marcus Stroman as we tend to do sometimes. We go off and on Marcus Stroman.
You guys
Basically,
do.
A bunch of Jays talk. We'll mix in some All-Star talk and some random offside jokes in the middle there. Don't forget we're on Facebook, facebook.com/batflipsmapledips, on Twitter @BFMD Podcast, SoundCloud, just make sure you look up Bat Flips Maple Dips. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, all that fun stuff. Now that the official stuff's out of the way, let's get to the fun stuff. Patrick, we're going to start with you. The Brave series in the week that was, that's where we're going to start. We had an okay split with them. Game 1 of that series wasn't bad. Game 2, pretty bad. What's your take on those two games?
Well, Marcus Stroman had a pretty solid start in the 6-2 win. That was nice. Justin Smoke had the homer. The hits were nice and spread out, and nobody really had like a big standout game at the plate. But seeing Marcus Stroman come back with a solid start where he didn't walk 1,000 batters was really nice to see. Mm-hmm. So very, very happy with that one. The loss, the score kind of makes it seem a little bit closer than it actually was, with the Devin Travis Grand Slam, which was a beautiful thing to see. But other than that, the team just sucked. Gaviglio was bad. Loop was bad. Tim Meza came out, actually, and he was quietly effective. But other than that, that game was just ugly. Very, very ugly.
One positive out of that game, though, Justin Smoke. That was the series where he started to really heat up. Justin, do you think that Justin Smoke can keep this going? Because, again, 2 homers in that series. He looked okay in the Red Sox series as well. Give us a little bit of a lowdown on Justin Smoke.
Yeah, Smokey's coming around with the power numbers. We talked a few times on previous episodes about how his power numbers were lower than they have been. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of just a regression to the norm for Smoke, where he's kind of just sort of finally making the contact and the ball's going out of the park. He was seeing a lot of line drives that were low into the ground before with hard contact, but he's just finding that right launch angle, as the big buzzword in baseball is right now. So he's hitting the home runs, and they're going out, and they're coming at big times. I mean, the 2 in the Boston series were huge, one from each side of the plate. So that was pretty cool to see. That Red Sox series, pretty much what we expected. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of us expected that they were going to... I mean, winning a game against Boston was great.
Yeah.
13-7 too, so we actually put the wood to him a bit, so that was nice to see. I mean, the errors were not great in that series. I think Gurriel had, maybe 4 errors in the series, which isn't great for anyone. But on a whole, I mean, the bats didn't look terrible in the first 2 games, but then Boston pretty much shut us down.
Well, let's talk about Devin Travis in that Red Sox series, because, again, Game 1, 4 for 4. He has a grand slam in the second game of that Atlanta series as well, but then he just falls off a cliff. It just seems like he's there for like 2 or 3 days, and then he just vanishes. Why is he so inconsistent? Do you think, Patrick, that it's his injury history, that he is still a little banged up because of all of his injuries he's had, or do you just think that he's that kind of player? He's just an inconsistent player?
He's just not an everyday starter in MLB. I think it's pretty obvious at this point, between the injuries, the fact that he can be on one day and invisible for like a week or 2 after that. It just goes to show that the Devin Travis experiment is over. And I'm pretty sure I've said this before, that Travis, he's the odd man out. He can see it coming. We can see it coming. Everybody can see it coming, and it's great that he was able to mash a little bit last week, because it means that increases his value as a trade commodity. Mm-hmm. But at this point, just it's great when he's out there playing great. He's a defensive liability. He had 2 errors last week. Look, when he was great for the Jays those couple of years after the trade, I was all about Devin Travis being our second baseman moving forward. But at this point, he's a liability out in the field. So I don't know. He's just whatever to me now.
Two more things about this Boston series I want to talk about here. Kendrys Morales played okay. His eye at the plate is getting really, really good. I mean, it's always been pretty good, but he's been walking a lot more than usual. Quickly for both of you, has Kendrys done enough in the past couple of weeks, because his start was horrible, but has he done enough, let's say in the past month, to be a trade asset for the Jays? Like, do you think we could get anything in return for Kendrys Morales, or is it just a future consideration or cash kind of deal?
I don't see him being moved simply because of his contract. We'd probably have to eat a bunch of his salary, and also the fact that he can't really play defense. We saw him at first base, and I think it was in the finale of that series. Maybe the third game he gave Smoke a night off his feet. But no, he'll be with us next year because of the contract and because he can't play defense.
Yeah. What about you, Patrick?
I kind of half agree with Justin. On one hand, yes, he has zero or negative defensive value. But if you look at his stats from, we'll say, maybe June to present, or even maybe a little bit further back than that, he does actually add value when it comes to his performance at the plate. I think he has done enough to make him a trade commodity, but we won't get anything for him. It's mostly just to get him off the books as fast as possible. And I do think we'll end up having to eat a little bit of the salary, but if we could trade him for a top 100 prospect from another team,
that's
not top 100 in MLB, but top 100 in their system. I would. That would be fine. But like Justin said, he's probably going to be with us next year. But I do think that teams that need a DH that aren't completely out of the race should look at Morales as somebody who has the ability to put the ball out of the ballpark, but his on-base percentage is shot into the stratosphere as of late.
Yeah, I just don't see him going anywhere, because I don't think anybody really needs a DH that's still in contention. And I mean, the fact that to get rid of him, we'll have to eat some salary and get a player who's probably never going to contribute. We might as well just keep him around. We've talked a few times about having veteran leadership on the team, and I mean we've seen with the young Latin American players like Gurriel that, I mean, he knows Morales. Morales is kind of a big father figure for him. So having guys like that are on the team next year, and we have Vladdy Jr. up as well with Gurriel, that could be huge to have that kind of Spanish presence in the clubhouse with Morales.
I thought when he went Suns Out, Guns Out, I thought he was going to be turning a new leaf. I thought he was going to be Suns Out, Guns Out Kendrys, and he was going to start hitting bombs for us. But
it's so funny that he took the glasses off and he got better.
That's
right?
the thing. He's one of those guys that is very superstitious. You can tell because he keeps changing up everything. Literally everything. No glasses, sleeves up. The way that he's batting, his foot, you can tell his feet. Sometimes he's really, really open. Sometimes he's not. The other thing I want to talk about here, let's talk Kevin Pillar, because it looks like he's going to be out 6 weeks. Ever since you guys ripped into Kevin Pillar saying that, he's not fast, he's not a MLB center fielder, he has fucking proved it. He has made some crazy catches. He's been great with the bat, not maybe great, but on the fringe of great for Kevin Pillar. Yeah. I mean, because Kevin Pillar has been historically not the best of hitters, but not the worst of hitters. Yeah. That one game, 4 for 5, 4 RBIs. He was looking good.
Yeah, he almost died.
This sucks for the Jays. Yeah, he almost died with his collarbone. It popped out. It, kind of ruptured a bunch of arteries that he had there and ligaments. Is his style a little worrisome for you guys? The way that he dives, the way that he's reckless in the field, because that's how he always gets injured. Yeah. Are you a little worried about that, or is it just that just happens?
From an injury standpoint, yeah, it sucks. But if you don't have guys in your team who are going all out to make plays, then what's the point of being out there? We can talk about Roger Doran.
Yeah,
Major
exactly.
League, just wouldn't get in front of a ground ball, didn't want to hurt his face.
Yeah,
Kevin Pillar would gladly lose a tooth to make a catch.
Patrick, what do you think here on Kevin Pillar? Do you think he should tone it down a little bit? And do you think that this affects the team at all this year with him being out 6 weeks?
No, he shouldn't tone it down, and no, it's not going to affect the team at all because he's playing at a replacement player level, and we're going to bring in a replacement player. And actually, that replacement player, I believe, is Dwight Smith Jr. Is he not playing center? And he's actually hitting much better than Kevin Pillar is. So, in a way, the injury is fortuitous in that it gives us a chance to look at Dwight Smith Jr. a little bit more. And we'll talk about him later in the show for all good reasons. But Pillar goes at it hard. That's his playing style, and that's how he's been able to make some defensively unbelievable saves over the course of his career. Like you said, he's an average hitter. He has a little bit of pop to his bat, but not really any more than the average outfielder. This playing style that he has is just going to burn him out. And like I think Justin said a few weeks back, he'll probably get moved to the corner, and either Alford or Smith will probably end up in center.
Kevin Pillar is such a streaky player, but it seems like his streaks always come at the best times.
They do.
During the playoff push, those 2 seasons, he was always hot at the right times. When the Jays were winning those 11 games in a row, he was always getting clutch hits, it seemed like. In the playoffs, he was hitting really well. But when the Jays are struggling, it seems like Kevin Pillar is struggling. I don't want to say the Jays go as Kevin Pillar goes, because that is not the case. But it just seems like whenever the Jays are playing well, Kevin Pillar is doing really well. Whenever the Jays are struggling, he's not playing well. Yeah. Speaking of players who are not playing well, I'm not saying that Marcus Stroman is playing awful or anything like that, but he can't string 2 solid starts together. It's been a topic of conversation here on the podcast a bunch, is his off-field, I don't want to say antics, but is his off-field style, let's just say. Is it catching up to him? Because Patrick's rant is going to be all about Marcus Stroman and the media in Toronto and stuff like that. But I know that Patrick and Justin have a little bit of different styles here. So before we get to the rant from Patrick, just quickly here, Justin, what do you think about this whole Marcus Stroman situation? Really quick, because we're going to get to it after the rant.
As a Leafs fan, I know all about the Toronto media and how they blow things out of proportion. Specifically, the Toronto media, they're kind of bad and known for that. So I'm not looking too much into this. I mean, Stroman's kind of come out and gave his side of the story. So, I mean, it's kind of he said, she said at this point. So I'm just choosing to ignore it.
So, in your opinion, it's kind of like, kind of sweep it under the rug?
I'm over it. It doesn't get under my skin at all.
Well, it kind of sounds like our man Patrick has a different take a little bit. Without further ado, it is time for the rant. So, Patrick Marsh, take it away, big guy.
All right, guys. So this week for the rant, we're not actually so much worried about Marcus Stroman. I've bitched about him more than enough, I think, over the course of this season. What I really want to talk about this week is this whole idea of the media and journalistic integrity, and just in general, the media needs to stop twisting stuff that's happening behind the scenes with sports players and athletes. It's gotten ridiculous, and I'm going to start right at the top by talking about Marcus Stroman. It's not a secret that Stroman has a little bit of trouble with social media. He said and done some things that fans don't understand, and the whole height doesn't measure heart gimmick is a little bit contrived. He's had a tendency to subtweet negative goings-on behind the scenes, whether it was Aaron Sanchez signing with Scott Boras, the infamous agent, or his buddies not getting re-signed by the team, whether it was David Price or, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ryan Goins, he might have said something about that.
Yeah.
Some fans have grown tired of Stroman's antics in social media, and we've talked about this, at least 3 or 4 times over the course of our podcast. I think Justin mentioned that he doesn't follow him on social media anymore.
Correct.
And even though I strongly dislike what he says a lot of the time on social media, especially with the subtweeting, I actually still follow him almost out of spite. But I digress. There comes a point in time, though, where the media starts to run with missteps or quotes that can be taken out of context. This past week, the Toronto Sun posted an article about how Stroman snapped after his loss to the Red Sox during the most recent series. The Sun led the piece by writing that Stroman said the team was effing terrible. They later went on to explain that his comment was preceded by something quite tame, but I want to read what Marcus Stroman said on Instagram and let it kind of speak for itself. Media asked me a question that had absolutely nothing to do with the game, team, or my performance. We just lost, and it's extremely frustrating. I'm not playing well. Neither are we as a team. After the camera shut off, I said, word for word, I'm terrible right now. We're terrible right now. It's frustrating, and that question isn't relevant at all to a member of the media. They chose to run the we're terrible part only. That's ridiculous. It's frustrating losing. Playoff level caliber is our expectation. My passion for my team and the city of Toronto is authentic and real. I love everything about being a Blue Jay. I truly have felt Canadian since I've come to the city of Toronto. I love this team and this city to the death of me. That won't ever change. Regardless of what words are spun, I love my team and this city. Always have, always will. At this point, nobody is going to stop Marcus Stroman from saying what's on his mind in social media, and that's his right. Even if what he's saying part of the time is cringy or awkward or considered maybe a little bit subversive towards team chemistry, this is what we've come to expect from him, and maybe even to some extent admire, especially coming from a young pitcher who's got more to prove than most. He's not afraid to speak out, and that's totally fine. The problem we're talking about this week is sports media. There are predatory beat writers looking to come up with a spicy take on a struggling team, and it comes across as pathetic. Yes, Marcus Stroman says dumb shit every now and again. Everybody does. Yes, sometimes it's bad and he knows it. Yes, the players on the team are frustrated about their performance. But right now, the last thing the Toronto Blue Jays need are hackneyed stories about clubhouse turmoil or a player going off the rails. The days of responsible journalism feel like they're long gone with 21st century media, but this situation smacks of a lack of integrity by the journalist whose name doesn't even bear repeating. So in short, if you're a journalist, ask the players about the game and show a little bit of integrity when you're writing your shitty takes. Otherwise, guys like us here at Batflips and Maple Dips are going to become the ones with the integrity when talking about the Blue Jays, and nobody wants to hear that shit.
Yeah, it's our job to be silly and take silly takes, not be the ones asking, the recaps of the game and stuff like that.
So, Marcus, how'd you feel about getting beat down out there today?
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't feel great.
Yeah, those are the questions we would ask, and we would get punched right in the face. I have an interesting take on this because I'm not what you would say a part of the media. I'm an FM radio host, and when people say, oh, you're a journalist or you're a member of the media, that is not true. My job is to talk about the weather on your way to work, make the odd joke here and there, talk about some local stuff. That's about it. But even in a market like Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, 250,000 people, journalists are very, very competitive because there are 3 news outlets here, the major ones, CBC, CTV, and Global. And that is the case for most major cities across Canada. And even in a market like Saskatoon, it is so competitive to get clicks, and it is so competitive to get people to read your stories because that's how you make your money.
Yep.
And in a market like Toronto that is how many times bigger than Saskatoon's, it would be way more pressure filled with that situation because that's what journalism is now. You need to get clicks. It's not about the integrity of the story. There are a couple columnists out there that still do that, but it's all about the clicks, and that's what sucks about journalists. They will not post the real story. They'll post what gets clicks, but it's not their fault. It's the higher-ups in the media's fault because reporters, no one grows up, wants to be a reporter and is like, well, I'm just going to sully people's bad name and get a lot of clicks. No, they want to have their own column. They want to be the guy in town that is, known for having reliable sources and reliable news. They don't want to be the guys that are going after people. It's their marching orders, So I feel bad for reporters in Toronto because, people are just telling them, oh, no, that title's not juicy enough. You got to have a juicier title. And that happens here in Saskatoon. Like, every media person here is friends. We talk to people at Global and CTV all the time, and even they have that, It's they're put in a tough spot, and they can't really do what they want. Mm-hmm. I know there are some Toronto media people that are complete assholes. Like Steve Simmons comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
I hate that guy. And like he will be a guy who has the kind of track record where he can do whatever he wants because he's been there for so long. But up and coming people who are doing those media scrums, because that's how people get their start. They do the media scrums and they work their way up. They're just out there to make sure that they're getting clicks on their website. And that sucks about journalism now. It's about the clicks. It's not about the content.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
I know. It's too bad.
But in a city like Toronto, again, like I'm talking about Saskatoon.
Yeah.
It's even bad here. In a city like Toronto, it would be insane the amount of stories that get twisted. Not even with the Jays, but again, I mean the Raptors, the Leafs, even the Toronto Rock, for fuck's sakes. Like even the Marlies and the Argos and like all that.
There's so much going on. It's a pressure cooker in that city for media, especially sports media.
If you get mad at a certain sports writer, you might want to just get mad at their company and maybe not the writer itself. But that's kind of my experience with it. I have a little bit of behind the scenes kind of perspective on it, but
companies generally have a culture,
and
if that culture is one that encourages the twisting or the spiciness of clickbait, then that kind of rubs out to all of their writers.
Definitely agree.
But guys, there's got to be a line between doing that and also like having a spinal cord. I mean, just even this example here, like, look, I have bashed Marcus Stroman more than my share during this season, rightfully so, because his performance is bad and nobody should be above criticism. But that includes the beat writers who are writing these crap pieces. I mean, I don't read a lot of the Toronto Sun anyway, but seeing the headline that Marcus Stroman snapped when what he said was really very mild, and it's probably something that would be unanimously agreed upon in the Toronto locker room.
Yeah, I think we all remember a player who snapped, and I think he wrote "The ship is sinking."
Shea Hillenbrand
on the. I think that's more of a snap than Marcus Stroman saying we're terrible right now.
Ted Lilly saying "fuck you" on the mound to John Gibbons and trying to fight him in the bullpen, or not the bullpen, in the dugout there.
I mean,
one thing I will say though is the difference between us and beat writers, we don't get paid to do this. It's just for fun for us. So we can take our own perspective and rip into people.
Oh, for sure we can.
Those beat writers, that's how they pay their bills. That's how they put food on the table. And journalism is a very competitive market. If you find a job, you want to hold on to it. I mean, I'm speaking from my own perspective here again. Sorry for doing that. And I've used the word perspective like 20 times in the past 5 minutes. But it's very competitive. And when you get a job, you hold on to it. No questions asked. And it's tough to get a job in this industry. So for guys who do get those jobs, I mean, if you're covering sports in the Toronto market, that is a dream job for a lot of people who grew up wanting to be a sports reporter. They'll do whatever they want or whatever they're told, and again, it's probably a good paying job. It pays the bills, great benefits. So the thing is, you got to kind of put yourself in their shoes. I mean, you said, like, don't you have a spinal cord? I do too, and I'd feel bad about it, but at the same time, I don't want to be homeless, I need that job to pay the bills.
100%.
Let's move on from the Toronto media, because again, even though I just kind of defended them, I still think they're kind of jerks. Let's go to a little bit of a roundtable discussion, a little bit of a would you rather mixed with a round table. If round table and would you rather had a baby, this would be it.
This would be it.
What is your ideal Toronto Blue Jays rotation for 2019? Patrick and I just talked forever, so we're going to let Justin go first.
Yeah, no, I think we can probably do these first couple of guys together. I think we all know that Marcus Stroman and Aaron Sanchez are going to be in the rotation next year. I don't think there's any argument for either of them not to be at this point. So we can talk about, they're both elite ground ball pitchers. They throw good sinkers.
Yeah.
Like Marcus Stroman has 60% ground balls, which is top tier. And Sanchez can be the same. The one drawback with Sanchez is that he does tend to walk a lot of people. Outside of his 2016, where he was top, where he received some Cy Young votes, he's had some trouble with the walk in his career. But again, the blister last year, didn't pitch for most of the season. And now he's got that contusion that he's dealing with. He should be back soon. He's throwing.
My fingers hurt.
Yeah,
well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty.
Yeah, so, I mean, it sounds like Sanchez is going to be back soon. So, I mean, Stroman and Sanchez are in there. That's probably our 1 and 2 guys. Have we seen enough from Ryan Borucki? to keep him in the rotation next season.
I've seen enough from Ryan Borucki to put him in the rotation this season at the end of the year.
Oh, I agree. I think he should be there. He's in the minors right now just because of the All-Star break, and they had needed a spot to bring up some players to fill in for some injuries and yada, yada, yada. But he'll be back up to make his next start after the break, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because Sam Gaviglio's been terrible the last couple of times out. So I'm kind of off. I was on the Gaviglio train for a bit, just to see more of him. And now that I've seen more of him, I've jumped off. I've tuck and rolled off the Gaviglio train.
Yeah.
And I'm now running across the desert trying to get away from his train as fast as I can. So yeah, for me, the three guys I want in there for sure: Stroman, Sanchez, Borucki. And I've talked about Sean Reed-Foley a number of times. I wanted him up instead of Borucki, not because I think Borucki was bad. I wanted to see Reed-Foley more than I want to see Borucki personally. But he's having a hell of a year in the minors. He's been moved up from AA to AAA. His ERA in AAA is a bit misleading. It's at 4.19 right now, but his FIP and xFIP that we've talked about in the past are 2.99 and 3.23 respectively. So he's, I guess, underperforming those. He's been the victim of some bad luck. His opponents are batting 341 on his balls in play right now. So that'll drop down closer to 300, and that should drop his other numbers as well. So I think he'll compete for a rotation spot. He's striking out 11 batters per 9 innings in Buffalo right now, which is elite, and walking about 3, which is still very good.
Yeah.
So I think he'll at least compete in spring training. And then I'd like to see us bring another lefty in free agency. I mean, people keep talking about, we'll bring Jay Happ back again. I don't want Jay Happ back again. I want somebody a bit younger. Jay Happ, all the credit to him. Great pitcher, good veteran guy. I'd like to see us go after Patrick Corbin. He's having a career year in Arizona this season. He's going to be 29 later in the summer. He's making $7.5 million this year. He's probably due for, I'd say, probably twice that next year, based on his current numbers. At least $13 million. Bringing him on a couple-year deal if you can. That'd be ideal for me. That's my guys: Stroman, Sanchez, Borucki, SRF, and Corbin.
SRF, really going to give him a nickname like that already?
I like it.
He has not earned it enough to do that. Come on.
Hey, he's
SRF.
I like him.
Surf.
I'm just yeah, Surf. Hey, that's a good one. He's got a cool mustache.
Yeah, as always, I'm going to go a little bit off the board here because
do it up.
I am looking ahead to Patrick's, and it almost looks
You're a wild card.
identical here. I'm going off the board. I'm going to say we get rid of Aaron Sanchez. We trade him for some pieces.
Go for it.
We trade him for a good second baseman and another infielder. That's what I say we do. We are keeping Marcus Stroman. We are keeping Ryan Borucki. I think Reed-Foley stays in the minors maybe one more year just because of his stupid nickname that Justin just gave him. He deserves to be there. I think that the Jays next year are going to be so young, and we kind of touched on it with the Kendrys Morales talk. The Jays are going to be so young next year that we need a bunch of veteran guys to kind of even out the locker room with the young guys and the old guys. We need those old guys to show the young guys how to do it. I have a feeling, and this is going to sound ridiculous, that David Price is going to be opting out of his contract with Boston. I don't know why, but I have a hunch he has an opt-out in his contract this year, and if he opts out, I would love to see David Price back for the Jays. I know he's old, I know he's got elbow problems, but he would be like our third or fourth guy. He wouldn't have the pressure that he would have on him like he did when we got him. And again, I know it's out there. I'm just doing this for the sake of being out there. Man. I would love David Price back to be the veteran guy to kind of, again, guide Marcus Stroman again. Remember how good Marcus Stroman was with David Price and how buddy-buddy they were and how Marcus Stroman was kind of, on a leash when David Price was there. I would love to see that again.
They could play Fortnite duos together, too.
Again, and with our lineup, again, like Vladdy's probably going to be in our lineup next year. I have a feeling Bo Bichette might make some strides and maybe make the opening day roster. He might probably will start in AAA, but maybe later on in the year. Our team's going to be so young that I think a veteran pitching rotation would do this team benefit. So I would say Stroman, I would say Borucki, I would say David Price, fingers crossed, and then you know what? Maybe we go after Gio Gonzalez. Because, again, we need another left-hander. He's 33. He went 15-9 last year. I think he would be another good veteran guy because, again, we have our young guys in the rotation with Borucki. Stroman's still pretty young. Put in those two aging left-handers and then maybe, again, get another kind of mediocre Drew Hutchinson kind of player. I think that would be great. I honestly think an older pitching rotation would be better than a younger pitching rotation.
When you said you were going to go off the book, I thought you were going to say we should pick up Jaime Garcia's $10 million option.
I would rather fucking go than fucking have Jaime Garcia back on our team next year.
He's going to be in the pen.
I loved his pickup at the beginning of the year.
So
I was like, oh, man, I like this guy, he's so vanilla. He's so boring.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna suck, at least be exciting. Like, be a Gustavo Chassin.
Yeah.
You know, wear some funny glasses, have a good name, come
Some
out with
sort of
some
novelty.
cologne, but don't be just boring like Jaime is.
Yeah, Patrick, what do you got for us, buddy?
I'm changing my list on the fly here, just because I like the idea of going off the board. I will say that I don't believe Aaron Sanchez and Marcus Stroman are going anywhere. I'm pretty sure they are solid 1, 2, and you can put them in any order you want. It really doesn't matter. I personally would put Sanchez first because I like his sinker. I like what he's got. He is susceptible to like a high number of walks, but I still think he's got that 2016 season still in him. I think he's got a couple of those left. While I'm not really fond of Stroman's online presence and very bad performance this year, I still think there's something inside of him that will push him to be an all-star, or he will like will his way back into favor. And then his performance will definitely recover. I like the idea of going left, right, left for 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to start way back at the anchor spot, like the number 5. I think we bring back Jay Happ, probably on a 2-year deal. He's a solid number 5 starter. He has been most of the time we've had him. I think he might not be, a sexy signing because we've seen his face so many times. It's just like you want to look at something different.
He's got a good face, though.
What's that?
He's got a good face, though.
Oh yeah, he's a handsome dude. But I mean, like,
movie would say, good face, looks like a ball player. Oh, great face.
That's what Pat Tabler says.
Yeah, exactly, great face
Just
on
looks
that guy.
like a ball player.
Yeah, looks like a ball player.
Soft hands.
Yeah. Aside from the fact that he makes for a better than average trading card, I think Hap is still going to have stuff next year. So a 1 or 2 year deal makes sense, and having him as the number 5 starter. If Jay Happ is your number 5 starter, I mean, he's an all-star this year.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, he was great. Didn't he go 16-4 or something like that? He's the kind of guy that we want on this team while we wait for our prospects to come home to roost.
Yeah.
Personally, I am on the Ryan Borucki train. I am strapped in. I don't want him to go back down to AAA ever again. I want him to be up in the show now and time eternal. I really like Borucki as a number 3 starter. He got absolutely rocked in his most recent start, but he pitched really well against a New York team and a Houston team.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't get rocked against Boston lately, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. They've already got 66, 67 wins.
Something gross
like
that.
Something.
At the friggin' break. Like, they're going to win 100 to 110 games. Like,
yeah.
Just leave them alone. Let them pound everybody. But I mean, Ryan Borucki, I don't think we should protect him at all. Like, I understand the logic behind him going down to the AAA. It's only so he gets a start in while he's waiting for his next MLB start. I think Jaime Garcia is done in Toronto as a starter. He will just go right into the bullpen.
They're putting him in there, yeah.
And if we're not going to launch him into the sun, launch him into the bullpen and have him be the Ryan Talbot, whatever it was, where he just comes into the game and we're already down by 15 runs, and he can just kind of.
Brian Talbot was a rock star in those games, though. When he was coming in,
did he have the big sideburns?
Yeah, he did, and he had the wings like a grade 7.
Yeah.
And I remember that guy was a rock star when he come into those games, though. When we were down 11 runs, he'd go 5 innings, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 7 Ks, just chuck it, and then be like, okay, let's give this guy a start. So we get an emergency start when someone would be hurt, and he would just be horrible.
And he would be a genius.
He would never get out of the 3rd inning. So that's your rotation. Did you have a 5th guy there, Patrick, too?
Well, my number 4 slot, because I want a righty.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Sean Reed-Foley maturing a little bit more in AAA. I don't know how much more he has left to prove in AAA, but I think we go out and sign somebody like, drum roll, Tyson Ross. out of
Interesting,
San Diego. I think is where he is right now. He's 31 years old. He is an okay but not great pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
He will come cheap. He's a free agent coming up, and I like the idea of him coming in, and if he ends up blowing chunks for us, he just goes into the bullpen. We should be able to get him for under $10 million.
Oh, for sure.
If we've got the cash to do it. I say have him come in and maybe Sean Reed Foley get some protected innings out of the bullpen while he kind of matures.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him up with the team if he's not, just absolutely throwing flamethrower balls in AAA. Put him in the bullpen, and then Tyson Ross come in. He'll be cheap and he'll eat up a bunch of innings, and the team's not going to compete next year. So I don't know. Fuck it.
Let's just get to you.
Yeah. Question for you guys with regards to Borucki. Would you slot him in between Sanchez and Stroman to break up the right-handers?
I would use him as a replacement for Sanchez. Honestly, I'm done with Aaron Sanchez. I know you guys love him, but I'm over him. I know he's great, and I know he will be good somewhere else, but I just think that, I don't know, I just don't remember him at all from those 2 years ago. I just think we could trade him for a lot right now, and I think that's what we should do, because I just think his finger and the way he throws, I just see him as never getting back to that point. I think he's hit it. But that's just me, and he's probably going to prove me wrong because I'm always wrong about this kind of stuff. And I hope he does too, and I hope he does it with the Jays, but I just don't see it. I just think that the smart move here, especially after seeing the decline of Josh Donaldson, I think we should get a high return for Aaron Sanchez right now. I think that we don't have to look in the hindsight and be like, what could we have gotten for this guy who lit it up and almost won the Cy Young Award
Josh
1 year.
Donaldson just makes me upset.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him, but one more thing before we transition. I do like your spicy take, Clayton. At the same time, since Aaron Sanchez and Marcus Stroman are, for lack of a better term, our aces, I think we're comfortable with the idea of like a right, left, left.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your two aces, and then you switch it up left, go back to right. So someone like Tyson Ross or, I don't know, whatever vanilla right-handed pitcher we can get for under $10 million, and then go back to Happ at left.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can flip Happ and Borucki, and maybe Happ is 3 and Borucki is 5, just to take some pressure off the kid. It doesn't really matter, but like I say, go right, left.
I just think that we are going to be competitive next year, and with our young guns not making a lot of money and not affecting the cap a lot, I think we can pay a lot of pitchers to come in.
That's why I like getting Corbin.
That's why I think getting some veteran guys in. I know that Patrick thinks we're going to be garbage next year, but I think we're going to be actually pretty good next year, even though our division is an absolute nightmare.
We might compete for a wild card.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on what happens with Bryce Harper, if he goes to the Yankees or not, like the rumors say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would suck. Can you imagine?
Yeah. All right. Let's not talk about sad stuff. No, we're moving on. We're not thinking about that. Let's move on. Usually we do Sorry Not Sorry here, one of my favorite segments, but we're going to pull a Peyton Manning and call an audible here.
Omaha.
We are going to pull a Steve Pierce. We're going to put it on the bench. This is just going to be called Segment 4 because we didn't think of a wacky title for it. So segment number 4. We're going to talk about Teoscar, Hernandez, and Dwight Smith Jr. because I think they deserve a little bit of love because their stats, they look great on paper. And sometimes when you see guys that have great stats on paper, they don't really produce it in the clutch times. But I think these two guys, and Justin will kind of explain here, they're proving that they're the real deal.
Yeah, more so with Teo for sure. I'm going to shorten Teoscar Hernandez to Teo.
What is with you and the nicknames
It's
today?
short. I don't want to say Teoscar Hernandez. It's a lot of syllables. I can't handle that.
All
Teo.
right.
It's easier to enunciate.
Okay.
So his first half numbers, I mean, the guy, Patrick thinks he should take more walks. I do concur with that. But if he wasn't hitting so many home runs, I would be more on the walk train than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy he's getting paid, and he's not getting paid that much, but he's getting paid to drive in runs and be a bopper for us, and that's what he's doing. His defense brings his value down a little bit in terms of WAR. It's only 0.7, but I mean, he's still learning the outfield in the big leagues. He's barely played a full season worth of games in his 3 years in the bigs. So I mean, let's give the guy a little bit of time to figure that out. The big thing for me with Teo is that he smacks the ball to all fields. He's not a pure pull hitter. He hits the ball hard. He averages 93 miles an hour on his exit velocity, which is 1 mile per hour above league average. And he hits an average of 16 degrees of launch angle. And that's kind of like the hot number right now. JD Martinez is usually around that 16 to 18 degrees, and he's leading the league on home runs right now. So I'm all aboard the launch angle train. It's a cool stat that we're still kind of learning about. But Teo's doing all the things he needs to do, and his bat's trumping defense. I know Patrick and I talk about him a lot in terms of just the pure power numbers and just how, I guess, aggressive he is at the plate, which in his case, I think it's a good thing. I don't mind him striking out a bit. I'd rather see him swing and miss than take pitches and strike out looking. What do you think about that, Patrick? Do you think I'm crazy for saying that?
No, actually, credit to for Teo. I got what's his nickname? Does he have one?
I don't know.
Apparently, it's Teo.
It is now on
Teo.
BFMD. It's Teo.
We call him Tescabar because we thought his name was Tescabar during his first game.
Tescabar?
Tescabar. That's what my buddy called him.
Okay, well, all right. So Teo, his OBP is very slightly above his career average, although we're talking about like a minimum amount of games here. He's actually, I'm okay with what he's doing this year because he's not actually slugging as good as he did in previous years, where again, limited playing time, but the contact that he is making, boy, this kid is an extra base machine. He's got, am I reading this right? He has 6 triples.
You might be. I'm not on his stats page right now, but I can be.
I'm on his stats page, and I see 20 doubles, 6 triples, and 15 home runs. So out of his 78 hits, like 40 of them are for extra base.
He's great.
41 of them. Holy Christ.
And we haven't even talked about his defense yet because he is a really, really good defensive player. Not like great, like Kevin Pillar great, but his arm is really, really good. I mean, he's the little things like taking the best route to the ball might be a bit better. Yeah, exactly. But like he's not a defensive liability out there. He knows what he's doing.
His arm is
I think that's the thing. His arm makes up for the fact that maybe he can't get to the ball as quick as some other outfielders. But his defense is pretty decent for a young player like him.
Yeah. That decoy play they ran in Boston, when he threw a strike to first base from left field. So I mean, that's
super hype.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
I see him as our future left fielder.
Me too.
Like I see him being our corner outfielder for hopefully like 8 to 10 years. Like I really like this kid.
Very Shannon Stewart-esque. Reminds me a lot of Shannon Stewart out there, and I fucking loved Shannon Stewart. He was so underrated.
Yeah, I liked Shannon Stewart. I loved Jose Cruz Jr.
And Tony Batista, baby. Oh, Tony Batista. Dwight Smith Jr., 45 plate appearances. That's right, PA, right?
Yeah.
So we can't really take too much in there, but I mean, he's batting .289, 2 home runs. He has a little bit of pop in his bat. What do you guys think about Dwight Smith Jr.? Do you think that he can next year crack the opening day lineup?
I'm going to call him DSJ just to piss you off, Clayton. He's looking at me right now.
So fucking over you.
I'm all about Dwight Smith Jr. being on the opening day roster next year, but as our 4th outfielder. I compared him when I was talking to Patrick. He's Curtis Granderson without the pop.
Yeah.
His power numbers do look very impressive right now, but I looked back at his minor league stats, and he's doing a lot more in the big leagues than he did in the minors, which, I mean, 45 plate appearances, we haven't seen him kind of even out yet. I mean, pitchers are seeing him for the first time in a lot of the cases, so they're throwing him fastballs, and he can hit fastballs because any young player with a bat can hit a fastball.
Yeah.
Once they start figuring him out and finding, there's going to be some holes in his swing. The good news for Dwight Smith Jr. is that he's walking almost as many times as he's striking out. And I looked at his swinging stats, and he makes contact with the ball on 75% of his swings, 85% of the time when the ball is in the strike zone. So he's not swinging wildly, which we've seen with kids like Gurriel, who come up and just swing for the fences and hack away and strike out a ton. Whereas Dwight Smith Jr., he seems to be a very patient player. And I believe he's 25 or 26 already. So he's got some. I think we drafted him in 2011. So he's been around for a while now. So he's had time to really develop his approach at the plate.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that translate, at least with the walk numbers and the low strikeouts. We'll see his power numbers drop. But I still think he'll hit for average maybe around 275, 280. It'll be higher than Kevin Pillar's is. Yeah. But he's a left-handed hitter, and we like that with Granderson, where he kind of platoons with Teoscar Hernandez in a sense. Mm-hmm. I do see Junior making the opening day roster as the fourth outfielder next season.
Interesting.
At this point,
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the home run derby, shall we? We're gonna spend like a minute on this.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper can hit batting practice baseballs over the fence. Congratulations. Good job. It was very entertaining.
Did you watch it?
I did, and I thought it was a very entertaining home run derby just because of the drama and that last round. It was awesome. I'm just reading tweets right now that say, oh, Bryce Harper cheated because on his 11th home run, he didn't wait for the ball to hit the ground. And then they pitched anyways, and he hit the ball. So you're saying, oh, it's cheating. Oh, it should be stripped. It's the fucking home run derby.
It's
Relax.
Literally meaningless.
Who cares? Gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know, it was fun. The crowd was loving it. That's the best part about the whole thing. The crowd was going nuts.
I think being there live would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, watching home runs on TV is great, but seeing those balls fly into the second deck in person is pretty cool. I know personally I was umpiring a ball game last night and got off the field and could have watched the last round, but I chose to go to sleep instead because that's how much I care about the home run derby.
Exactly. I liked it when like Ken Griffey Jr. was in it. Like, because you get to look at his sweet
Remember when
swing.
Josh Hamilton mashed like
exactly.
50 dongs
like, that was
in
fun.
New York?
What about
cool.
Patrick, really quick here? Home run derby, yay, nay?
Yay for watching old home run derbies. There's nobody like Griffey
Griffey was the king.
I know this is heresy, but there are no Maguires or Sosas or Bonds or Griffeys anymore. Like Bryce Harper is not having a great season. Yeah, he can hit meatballs, in basically batting practice.
I bet you John McDonald could do pretty well against meatballs too.
There's
Don't
no
sully the good name of John McDonald on this podcast. How dare you? You know he's my favorite player.
There's no sexy hitters anymore. All those guys are gone, and what we have now is Bryce Harper, who's having a mess season, Kyle Schwarber, who's having a great season, but nobody really gives a shit about. Mm-hmm. Like, I want my big superstars. How did Stanton do during the home run derby? Did he participate?
Was he in it?
I don't think he was in it. He was in it last year.
I don't think
that's pathetic. The guy mashed 59 home runs last year. He's not even in the derby this year. Like,
well, players can elect not to, and I understand why. I mean, there's a long-standing tradition that there's some sort of curse about the home run derby.
Alex Rios.
Yeah.
Remember Alex
Oh,
Rios?
God.
He had that awesome home run derby, and he
Pepperidge Farms,
did zero things for the Jays after. Okay, that's going to make him mad. We got to move on to trade stuff here. Before we get to baseball trades, I want to talk about Kawhi Leonard possibly going to the Toronto Raptors really quickly here. Apparently, the Raptors are the front runners for Kawhi Leonard, and they have sent them a very, very interesting deal.
Do you think DeRozan's going back?
I don't think DeRozan would go. I think it would be Kyle Lowry, Powell.
OG?
I think it would be 2 first-rounders and then another guy on the team. Like, it would be maybe an OG or a young guy or something like that, maybe a Pirtle. But if we got Kawhi Leonard, man.
It'll only be for 1 year, though.
I know,
he's a rental player.
Maybe I know we'd have to give up a lot for him, but again, look at these. LeBron's gone.
Yeah.
The Raptors can get past any other team except for LeBron. I just wanted to mention that because it's Toronto, whatever.
I still think that the Raptors can get past without adding Kawhi. I mean, they can get to at least the Eastern Conference Final this year. They'll probably play Boston.
Yeah, I just want Kawhi Leonard to
It'd be cool, but we don't know how healthy he is.
Whatever.
That's the thing.
The Raptors have been good for too long. They deserve to be in the dumps for a little while and rebuild and get some picks. Right. Let's go back to the Jays, though. Patrick, you're up first here. J-Hap, our best trade commodity. Phillies, Yankees, Mariners, Cubs, they've all been linked to him. Where do you see him going? Because he is going.
If he's going anywhere, and I agree, like he is going, he's going to either the Mariners or the Yankees. He's not going to go to an NL team. It just doesn't make any sense. The Yankees, they're going to have to play Boston. The road to the World Series is going to go through Boston. Hap is the kind of pitcher they want to have in their lineup to stifle the Red Sox going down the stretch. If they want to get out of the wild card 2 spot and maybe try to compete for the division title. Mm-hmm. The Mariners, it's kind of a similar situation where the road to get to the World Series is probably going to go through either New York or Boston. So again, Hap, lefty. It just makes sense. I don't see the Phillies bothering. The Cubs doesn't make any sense at all to me. I'm not sure exactly why. I can't qualify that feeling, but Hap is either going to the Yankees or the Mariners, whichever one's willing to pay the most. And from what I've seen out in social media, neither team is interested in paying very much, but it doesn't matter because he's probably just going to come back to us when we re-sign him in the winter.
Says you.
So, yep. Says I.
Let's go to Curtis Granderson, because apparently there were rumors that Cubs might be interested in him for a veteran presence in the outfield. Curtis Granderson's 10 years a J. I can't wait for that tribute video if he does leave when he comes back. My goodness. So many highlights. But I like Grandy, man. Like I thought he was a nice little spark to our team.
He's great. I mean, and he does all the things that you want him to do. He's good when he comes in pinch hit appearances, and he comes in. He doesn't just swing away. He's patient. He'll take his walks. He'll strike out a fair time, but he still hits the ball hard for an old guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about like the Cubs are looking for a veteran presence, and that's what he is for us right now. And with Pilar out, I still think we trade Granderson because obviously our season's over, so there's no point in keeping him when we can get something.
Yeah. We got to get something for him.
We keep talking about value all the time, but it's true. When you're in a lost season, there's no way in hell that we could have hoped to compete with the Red Sox, the Yankees this year, and we're getting to the point now where it's like, yep, okay, blow it up, get what we can, restart the cupboard because next year's gonna be fun.
And we talked about Kendrys Morales a little bit. So we might be able to get something for him, but nothing too major in return. It might just be worth getting rid of his contract. But with Josh Donaldson, I still think we can get something in return for Josh Donaldson, whether it be one great prospect or two mediocre ones that are kind of wild cards could turn into something. Patrick, do you really care if he gets traded anymore? What do you think on Josh?
Man, this was something that I brought up a little bit earlier before we started recording today, just talking to Justin, and I feel so dead inside and so numb to Josh Donaldson. Like I can't bring myself to have feelings about the situation anymore because every time we think he's going to come back and be great, the regression is just continuing. And we already won the trade. We already got an MVP out of him. We already got back-to-back ALCS appearances from him. If we trade him and get value for him, great. If we don't, he finishes the season as a J. Even if we resign him, it doesn't matter. He's not going to be our third baseman in 2 years or 3 years.
1 year.
Even if we do sign him. Yeah, like it's going to be Vladdy. Because it's going to take 3 to 5 years to transition Vladdy over to first base. If that's what they want to do, that's not going to happen. So Donaldson is done in Toronto, and I just don't care anymore. Like I don't care if we get anything for him or not anymore, just because I feel dead to it.
Put in for some bamboo bats and a case of baseballs.
You guys are fucked. It's still Josh Donaldson. He won the MVP like 2 years ago. He's got baseball left in him, and he's got the name. Again, he's got the name. Teams in a wild card push are going to want a guy like that.
But they're not going to pay for him. That's
I know they're not, but again, hey, we can maybe get one good prospect.
We're talking about
I'll take one good prospect in return for
not
Josh.
going to be what we want it to be.
That's fine.
And at this point, I'm with both of you. It's like it's still Josh. And I want to give him all the chance in the world to come back and show us that we're wrong about him being done. We've had the same conversation about Stroman when we were all ready to write him off kind of after those first 7 starts. And then as he's come back, he's shown signs. And I believe that Donaldson will do that as long as he's 100% when he comes back. Because the last time he came back, he obviously wasn't. Because he lasted, a week? 2 weeks maybe? And he wasn't good.
In closing, you guys said I am not putting myself in that we group. You guys think, Josh Donaldson's done. I don't think Josh Donaldson's done at all. I still love Josh.
I'm on the fence.
And also, Patrick, that was a gross misunderstatement. Oh, we got a pretty good trade for Josh Donaldson. We basically traded Brett Laurie for Josh Donaldson straight up. There were a couple other little pieces
We got rid
of
Franklin Barreto too, unfortunately.
I wanted to bait you into calling him Cement Head again, but I didn't get it.
Fucking Cement Head. Nothing going on upstairs with that guy. That about does it. We were ending on a Brett Laurie reference, though.
What do you want?
You know what?
Double back.
Let's just say Carlos Delgado. There we go. Okay, we ended on a Carlos Delgado reference and not a Brett Laurie reference because that'd be horrible. Thanks for listening. Episode 7, Bat Flips Maple Dips. Again, head to Facebook, facebook.com/batflipsmapledips, on Twitter at BFMD Podcast. That's where you can see most of our stuff. We're pretty active on Twitter. Give me a follow too at Radio Clayton. Why not? SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/batflipsmapledips, iTunes, Google Play Music. Patrick, thanks for joining us in the Maritimes. As always, enjoy your lobster, whatever the fuck you guys do out there. And we're going to enjoy the sunny 33-degree day here in Saskatoon.
I'm going canoeing.
Oh, nice. So for Justin, Patrick, and myself, episode 7 in the books. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday.